Toy Polloi, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a toy restorer who does not exist. Toy Polloi, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the broken, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of collectors who operate above the law.
Welcome to Toy Polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from Toy Polloi. Now I get asked all the time to give an update on my Imperial Army setup, so today I'm taking the time to show you how Yellow Squadron is looking. Now this is a collection of toys that I've been collecting for 5 or 6 years now, and these are cheap and cheerful Imperial figures, the ones that no one really wants. They're all a little bit battered and a little bit broken, and obviously they're all a little bit yellowed, and you can pick these up if you are patient for sort of £2 to £3 each, and that's the way I've been collecting them, because I've always wanted to have an Imperial Army setup ever since I was a child, but obviously it can be quite an expensive thing to do. But if you're very patient and you just sort of wait and find the figures, you can actually do it pretty cheaply. Now, as you can see, once you have all the figures set up, it does look quite impressive, but when you look a little bit closer, you'll see how rough and ready some of the figures are. They vary in colour from being reasonably white to being completely yellow, but that sort of variation is what makes this such a lovely sort of setup. I like the fact that every single one of these figures is a little bit different and a little bit battered. Often when I get the figures, they actually look like this. You can see these are some ones that I'm sort of working on at the moment. These are sort of spare parts and bits that I still need to find other pieces for. But that's why you can get these figures cheap. You see, picking up an Imperial officer like this missing a head, most people don't want that, or they might want it for a custom figure. But I found that, I think I paid £1 for it. And at some point I'll find a head, or I'll find another figure that's missing legs, and I can just sort of mix and match them together. Likewise, I have this ATST driver that is missing a leg. Who knows where that leg's gone, but at some point again I will find another one that's not missing that leg or is missing some other parts, and I can sort of piece it together. And this poor little ATAT driver, again, he's one that was actually donated to me a short while ago. I think I've already swapped out parts of him. I've taken his arms off, I've actually taken his legs off, because I had another one where you can see he's lost both of his feet, but that means I've been able to add another figure to my collection, and this one still has some useful bits in it, so at some point I may find some extra legs and he will get swapped out. So really the whole point of my army is just to take the dregs that no one else wants, piece them together and build something that looks really nice. Now I do like to try and keep a track of all the figures I've got, because it's quite interesting to see which figures are more common to find and which are slightly harder to find. So far I have 206 figures in my Imperial Army. Probably the hardest ones I find to find, apart from the Death Star gunner, which I actually have none of them in my Imperial Army, is actually the TIE fighter pilots. I almost never come across those, so at the moment I only have 9 of those, but if you can compare that to Stormtroopers, I have 38 of those, so they're definitely a lot easier to find. But I guess that's because when they first came out, people wanted Stormtroopers, so every child was out there buying Stormtroopers, and you just ended up with a lot of them. I also try and keep a track of what weapons I need. Most of the figures don't have weapons, and the ones that do have weapons, they're generally sort of poor quality reproductions that I bought very cheaply off eBay, just so that they look sort of quite nice. But I would say about 50% of the figures don't have any weapons at all, but quite often they don't even have hands, so even if I did have a weapon, they wouldn't be able to hold them because the hands or the thumbs are missing. question that is often asked of me is, what do I use for display stands? And I have to say, I've always used these for this Imperial Army because they're pretty cheap to buy. I think you can buy 20 of these star stands for about £6, and as you've seen, I've got over 200 figures, so I need a lot of stands, and I just buy these in packs. Every time I sort of run out of stands, I'll buy a new pack of them, and these you can get off eBay, or they are available at various forums and that, but really these are the best ones I've found. They're pretty cheap to buy, and if you need a lot of them, you can get a lot of them quite easily. I've just taken a few biker scouts out of my army just so you can see the sort of the varying states of disrepair that these figures come in. Mostly they are in pretty rough condition. I do have the odd one, it's actually not too bad. You can see this biker scout here is actually in pretty reasonable shape, apart from the fact he's got a very loose arm. He's only mildly yellowed on the legs and the hat, but otherwise he's not too bad condition. But then you can start to see some of the others. These have different shades of yellowing going on. I actually really like this one because for some reason he's got quite a sort of pinky, sort of orangey yellow on his chest, and then it's very yellowed on the back. I've no idea why this one went such a funny colour, but I really like it, which is why I just sort of left him as is. Then you've got this poor chap here who again pretty yellowed, and at some point most of his visor has been chewed off. Oh, I don't really know what's gone on there. Again, it's sort of bitten away, but once he's in the army it doesn't actually matter. He's also got incredibly floppy arms as well. And then of course you have the classics, which is like this guy here, who's one that I've featured on my channel a couple of times because this is one of the ones where his head was snapped off and I fixed it using a little Lego peg there. So there's at least 3 biker scouts in that army with the heads attached like that, but it doesn't really matter because once they're all lined up, even though they're sort of varying in colours, they just look great together. So you don't have to have a perfect selection of figures to make an Imperial Army. In fact, the more varied they are, the better the army looks. Probably the biggest recent addition to Yellow Squadron has been a whole load of Emperor's Royal Guards that were very kindly donated to me by Rob Bartlett at a recent toy fair that I went to. Now these all needed quite a lot of work because they were missing their capes and their heads had broken off. So check out the video that I did recently on those and you'll see how well they ended up looking and how great they now look in the Imperial Army that I have on display here. As with all forms of collecting, it's about patience. If you rush into these things, you can end up paying a lot of money to buy new additions to an Imperial Army. But as you can see, it's taken me 5 or 6 years to get this many, and it will probably take me 5 or 6 years to get just as many more to add to it. And that's how I like to collect. Sometimes I don't find any for months, even a year, but every once in a while I'll go to a toy fair and I'll be able to pick up a few new additions, or I'll be out in a charity shop and I'll find a new member of Yellow Squadron. But really that's the fun of it. Just taking it easy and just occasionally finding them. Don't rush it, and it's great fun building an Imperial Army. And as you can see, I'm almost running out of space to display the ones I've got. I'm soon going to have to move a few other bits of my collection away so that I can start expanding the Imperial Army left and right and just adding a few more figures as I go. And there we have it. That is Yellow Squadron as it stands today, all 206 figures. Over the next few years, as I say, I hope to add a few more to it, but if it stays at this amount, that is perfectly fine with me, because I've actually managed to achieve one of my childhood dreams, which was just to have an Imperial Army exactly as it looked at the end of Return of the Jedi. So I hope this video has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow Toy Polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.